Today, 24th of February, I'm Councillor Mark Hurd, Chairman of Morden District Council. Set up for this meeting has been designed to mitigate for COVID. Therefore, can I ask all present to work to the protocols agreed at Council on the 2nd of September 2021 in the interest of member and officer safety. We are streaming this meeting live. It is also being recorded, and by being present in the meeting, you are giving your consent to being recorded. Please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak. I will invite you at the appropriate time. Please reference a page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers. Please remain seated and keep your contributions clear and concise. The sound recording of this meeting is dependent on the correct use of microphones. Please remember to turn on your microphone to speak and turn it off when finished. Please avoid approaching the top of the table, as the cameras there are live feeds that are hazardous and affect our streaming. All members are asked to confine their preparation to matters relevant to any agenda item. Any declaration of interest should be limited to the declaration itself. It is inappropriate to use public meetings to make allegations against employees or other members. An official complaint procedure exists to raise such allegations, and these procedures should be used, and the monitoring officer should be contacted for further advice. Any member that does not comply with these requirements will be in breach of my ruling. I'll have this noted in the minutes for possible future action, and I will warn them to desist if they persist. I will either adjourn the meeting or propose that the agenda item should be dealt with without access to the public under the Local Government Act 1972. If we go into private session, the live link will be cut, and that member will have denied the public having access to the debate and voting on the agenda item. So we move to agenda item 2, which is apologies for absence. Are we able to contact Miss Bird for any apologies?
Yeah, we have one apology from Councillor Bell.
Councillor Bell, that is noted. Thank you. Agenda item 3. Yes, Councillor Stamp.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Councillor Michael Helm has had to go downstairs to help somebody, so he is present, but I'm sure he'll pop up as soon as he's done his duty. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And yes, Councillor Skeens.
I believe Richard Siddle, Councillor Siddle, sent apologies, but you can confirm it, I'm sure.
Yes. Thank you very much. I understand you've been informed. Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you, members. Agenda item 3 are minutes of the previous meetings. These are found on pages 7 to 18. It's recommended that the minutes of the council held on the 2nd of September 2021 are approved as a true and accurate record. These are presented for accuracy only. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mays, thank you. If any member wishes to raise any matter of accuracy, they need to indicate their wish to speak now. Councillor Channer.
Thank you, Chairman.
Please remain seated.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. It's page 10, Chairman, and it's minute 239, and it's statement of community involvement, adoption of. I think I did try to start it at that meeting, but just to say, I did make reference actually at that meeting regarding an officer, and regarding the work regarding the statement of community involvement, considered, it was really helpful the way it had all been dealt with, and the tables and the responses for members to operate. And I did name the officer Leonie Alpin. So I do think it, Chairman, when an officer's name perhaps is mentioned, that it would be rather nice to see it reflected in the minutes. That was the intention of drawing her good work and name at that time, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other member? Are we happy to agree these by assent? Thank you very much. Okay, right, okay, thank you. Agenda item 3B, pages 19 to 22, is recommended that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 4th of November 2021 are approved as a true and accurate record. These are presented for accuracy only. I so move. Do I have a seconder?
Excuse me.
Councillor Mays.
Yes, please.
Thank you. One moment, please, Councillor Morris. I have one member advising on matters of accuracy, Councillor Stevens. I think these are already presented in the minutes. Councillor Morris.
Thank you. I'd just like to know how the minutes don't show that a point of order was called maybe 100 times and the minutes don't even reflect that a point of order was called once. I was just wondering if the minute taker has got channelitis.
This
Just read it out.
This has, it is going to be replaced with Councillor C. Morris, then raised a point of order. This was not taken by the chairman, and Councillor Morris kept repeating his point of order. Councillor Morris kept interrupting and other members raised their voices.
I've got a problem with the interrupting bit because calling a point of order is a right. You can't interrupt by calling a point of order. It is a member's right, and the chairman needs to deal with a point of order forthwith, as the Constitution states, which you did not do, Chairman.
Okay, Councillor Channer.
Thank you, Chairman. Could it be minuted regarding, obviously, quite in detailed statement there from Councillor West, could it be minuted, please, about channelitis? Thank you, in the minutes.
Yes, the minutes note that. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. As regarding the point of order, that correction sounded as if you heard what the point of order was and wouldn't address it. In fact, we were never told what the point of order was, and it is the member's job rather than the chairman's to actually indicate what the point of order is, not the chairman's to find out. As I realise you know, Chairman.
Okay. Councillor Morris, I'll allow you to come back.
Thank you. When a point of order is called, it is for the chairman to stop the meeting. At the point of order, the chairman refused to hear the point of order and actually turned down the point of order. If the chairman had have accepted the point of order, I would have given the point of order. But I was not allowed the point of order, and there is no discretion in that in the council constitution. So, Mr. Chairman, that was your fault.
Right, does any other member wish to raise on a matter of accuracy? No. Can we agree those by assent? Thank
Point
you.
of clarification. Would the chamber like to know what the point of order was?
No, it was agreed.
Great.
So
Yes.
we now move
No?
to item 3C on pages 23 to 26. It is recommended that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 16th of December 2021 are approved as a true and accurate record. These are presented for accuracy only. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mays, thank you. Members, can these be agreed by assent? Thank you very much. 3D, we now move to item 3D, pages 27 to 32. It is recommended that the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on the 18th of January 2022 are approved as a true and accurate record. These are presented for accuracy only. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mays, thank you. Members, can these be agreed by assent? Thank you very much. We move on now to agenda item 4, which is declarations of interest. This is to disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other pecuniary interests or non-pecuniary interests relating to items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraphs 6 to 8 inclusive of the Code of Conduct for members. Members are reminded that they are also required to disclose such interests as soon as they become aware, should the need arise, throughout the meeting. The Local Government Finance Act 1992, Section 106. Any members affected by Section 106, please note that any declarations to that effect should be made on the commencement of the meeting or immediately on arrival. Under Section 106, a member who has not paid an amount due in respect of their council tax for at least 2 months after it became payable is precluded from voting on any matters affecting the level of council tax or the arrangements for administering the council tax. The member is, however, entitled to speak. So do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Stamp.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just the normal. I'm a member of Essex County Council. I can't think there's anything coming on the agendas that I've gone through that is got any interest on it, so Chairman. But if there is, I will draw it to your attention at the time.
Thank you very much. Councillor Durham.
Thank you, Chairman. A non-pecuniary interest as a member of Essex County Council, but actually Essex County Council are the main beneficiaries of the council tax, so I suspect that is relevant.
Thank you. And Councillor Mays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Non-pecuniary interests, item 5C, fees and charges, as I'm Secretary for Malden and Haybridge Heritage Harbour and for the Brent Trust. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fluker.
I'll give way to Mrs. Fleming because
Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Councillor Fluker. Thank you, Chair. As a member of Essex County Council, any matter relating on the agenda, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fluker.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 13, given my involvement with several SMEs in the district and our working train regarding this policy, I will leave the chamber at the start of this item and not return. Thank you.
Thank you. I will also declare a non-pecuniary interest on 5C, fees and charges, as I am a trustee for the Brent Steam Tug Trust. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't be voting on anything to do with the council tax. I'd just like to state that council tax is unlawful, and under the Local Government Finance Act of 1992, no mandatory obligation to make payment towards council. There's no mandatory.
Declarations of interest are a matter of stating fact, not a litany of excuses for not paying tax.
It's not excuses, it's fact.
What is your declaration? What do you wish to declare?
The Local Government Finance Act of 1992 evidences no mandatory obligation to make payment towards council tax. The council is under a legal obligation to prove the people are under obligation to comply with the legislation, which they cannot. Council tax is unlawful. Thank you. And if anyone wants to chat about it or see the legislation, I can supply it.
Chair, non-pecuniary interest in agenda item 5C because I'm also a member of Malden Haybridge Heritage Harbour Association.
Thank you. Councillor White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to declare an interest in agenda item 13 that I run a small business and I will listen to the debate, but I won't vote on it.
Thank you. Councillor Dewick.
Chairman, agenda item 13, as a recipient of non-domestic rate rebate, I will leave the room for that item. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Pecuniary interest, I believe. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Stamp.
Chairman, am I allowed to ask a question if there is anybody in this room that is in council tax arrears? Is that allowed? Can that be answered by the monitoring officer, please?
I'll refer to the monitoring officer.
I'll just double check. I know.
Chairman, it has. Sorry to interrupt you, Ms. Holmes, but it has been mentioned before when I've attended a meeting, because I think it's happened previously with other councillors, and I think it was mentioned there. I could be wrong, but I think it's really important that if there is anybody, it should be stated for the minutes.
Okay, Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to say that I am in council tax arrears, but when Wendy Stamp's husband pays me for the teeth he knocked out,
okay.
hopefully I'll be able to sort it.
I'm sorry.
Chairman, I'd like it noted. That's an allegation, please, and I'd like that
Your
noting in
husband
the
admitted to it, Wendy.
I'd like
He admitted
please,
to it.
Councillor
shut up
Morris,
when I'm
please.
talking. I
No,
give
I
way
won't
to
shut
you.
up
I
when
give
you're
way to
talking.
you.
Your husband
Members,
assaulted me.
members.
Your husband
Members.
assaulted me.
Councillor
He
Morris,
admitted it.
please be quiet. Right,
Can that be noted, Chairman, please?
I'd like the minutes to note that. The minutes are noting the allegation that you've made.
It's not an allegation. It's an admitted fact.
Right.
Can I just clarify something? Item 5C should be 9C.
9C, yeah, sorry. So for my declaration is 9C, not
And
5.
that's the same for me.
And the same for you. Okay, thank you very much. Right. Agenda item number 5, public questions. We have not been notified of any. The next one is public questions. The next, please sit down, sir. You have not. Okay. All right. Thank you. We now move on to agenda item 6, and I do have the following announcement. I'd like to highlight the work undertaken by the council because of the recent storms Eunice and Franklin. On Friday, the 18th of February, a red weather warning was issued covering the Malden district. Officers immediately updated our business continuity plans to reflect the increased risk, contacted staff and key partners, making operational decisions such as closing cemeteries and the council offices for the day. Throughout the storms, our website and social media channels were updated, giving the public up-to-date advice and information. During the period covered 18, 19 and 20th of February, officers responded to calls for help, either responding directly or passing calls to the appropriate agency. Several visits were made to properties by our building control team looking at reported dangerous structures. Our parks team dealt with a range of business issues, including fallen trees in parks and cemeteries, collapsed fences, walls, flood risk, and damage to the Burnham Town pontoon. The council also gave assistance to residents without power, working in partnership with Essex County Council Emergency Planning Team and UK Power Networks. Our community engagement team made home visits to check on vulnerable persons. In one specific case, officers assisted a care home to become reconnected to the power supply through reporting and highlighting concerns for residents. I am pleased the council was able to respond to this emergency, and I would like to thank all involved in the response for their work over the last few days, who came together at short notice as one team to respond. Agenda. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to bring to the council's attention that a homeless person appealed to this council for assistance before these storms, when these storms were forecast, and was basically given a tent. In 2 red alert high wind weather storms, we gave out a tent to a homeless person, which is completely inadequate.
All right,
thank you.
Councillor Stevens.
Point of order. I notice Richard Holmes is laughing at that. I just saw him laughing.
It's not a point of order.
Sorry, is a homeless guy being given a tent in a high wind? Is that funny?
Please be quiet. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. You might want to wait, and I'll come to it if you want to finish this point first. I don't know if you've anything.
The point
else
is finished.
You're finished. Okay. I just wanted to go back to public questions because I had this idea that somebody at the back there couldn't actually hear what you were saying, and they seemed to be indicating that they had submitted a public question in advance, which might be wrong. It just was what I felt was happening. Thank you.
Miss Bird, are you with us?
Yes.
Thank you.
No, just hold on a second. Just a second, thank you. You do have the property to take the question.
Councillor Morris.
Whilst we're waiting, Chairman, point of clarification, is it within your gift to allow this gentleman to ask a question? So it is within your gift to allow it, yeah?
It is within my gift.
Thank you.
Tara, have we had any notifications?
No, Chairman, there's been none received.
Right.
Explain the situation and take the question.
I will hear the question.
Thank you, Chair.
Which one? This young lady's got. Thank you very much. Just to give you a quick who I am. I'm Bert Cottle. I used to be a parish councillor for Billericay, and Wendy. I met Wendy at one of the Essex council meetings, and I think she could vouch for me for being very truthful and honest and respectful. My question is about the budget. What concerned me is that the things that have been put in print about the people that came to a meeting or so ago, that there was violence or against councillors.
I'm sorry, sir, could I ask what your question is?
My question is about the budget. The non-disclosure agreement that the councillors agreed to.
I'm sorry. Could you put it in the form of a question?
Yeah. Well,
what is your question?
I'm just coming to that. Why the need for a non-disclosure agreement to be issued to people that work for the council? Why the need for that? And does it come out of council tax budget?
Well, what we'll do is we have that question. I'm sure that will be handled by the monitoring officer, and a response will come.
So the what officer?
The question will be sent to the monitoring officer, and we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
If you leave your details at the end.
Okay.
Thank you very
other
much.
point is that Councillor Morris made a point of order, and no one knows what it was. I know.
Okay.
Question.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Right. We now move on to agenda item 7, which is the minute book. Item 7A, Performance Governance and Audit Committee, 18th of November 2021. There is a decision to opt into the National Scheme for Audit Appointments. I'll now call on Mrs. Jeanette Stilts to present them. Mrs. Stilts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I present the minutes of the PG&A Performance Governance and Audit Committee held in this chamber on the 18th of November 2021, found on pages 33 to 38. There is a recommendation which needs to be approved by Council, and that is minute number 388, decision to opt into the National Scheme for Audit Appointments, page 36. Can I have a seconder for this? Thank you, Councillor Fleming.
Thank you.
Is everybody happy to accept that recommendation? Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I put the minutes of that meeting to this council. Can I have a seconder for those minutes? Thank you, Councillor. Can the minutes be agreed by assent?
Agreed. Thank you. Okay. Councillor Sills?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Thank you. Right. Okay, move to 7B, Strategy and Resources Committee meeting on the 6th of January 2022. I call on, well, Richard Siddle isn't present, so will you be doing, no, Councillor Swain.
It is Councillor Swain.
Councillor Swain to present these, please. Oh, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Yes, members, I move the minutes of the Strategy and Resources Committee held on 6th of January and draw to members' attention two recommendations in that. One, minute 426 concerns the pay policy statement for 2022-23 for agreement. The second is minute 428 on discretionary fees and charges for 2022-23. This one is only for noting, as the topic comes up later under the consideration of the budget papers. So can I have a seconder for the minutes and the recommendations?
Councillor Shaughnessy, thank you.
Can we agree the minutes of that meeting, please?
Thank you, members. I'll move on to
a point of order. I can't remember. I can't relate it to any. I can't relate it to 13. I can't relate it to any other number, but it is. I understood that it wasn't the job of the council to approve the minutes of a committee meeting?
Not to approve, but they are to note.
No, I believe it was, the proposal was to accept the minutes.
I'm sorry.
Can I rephrase that, Chairman, as to asking members to agree the minutes?
Asking members to agree. Yeah, are you happy with that, Councillor Boyce?
No, I'm sorry, Chairman. We cannot agree the minutes of the meeting because that is for the committee meeting at its next meeting to agree, not for us to agree.
Yeah, well, I think we can note them and then return them.
Yes, I've got that.
Okay, so members, are you happy to note? Are you happy to note these meetings? And they can go back to SNR to be agreed.
Chairman, does that apply to the one on pay policy statement, which I assumed was for actual approval at this meeting?
The recommendation.
Chairman, that's a recommendation which we can approve.
Yes, we can agree the recommendation, not the minutes.
That's approved, right?
Yes, that is approved.
Okay, I'll go on to the Strategy and Resources Committee meeting on 3rd of February.
He's jumped ahead. He's jumped ahead. No. Wait.
I'll come back to you on that one. I'm going to move to performance governance and audit on the 13th of January, 7C. And I call on Councillor Jeanette Stilts to present them.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I present to you the minutes of the Performance, Governance and Audit Committee held on the 13th of January 2022, found on pages 73 to 76. I ask for their adoption. Can I have a seconder, please?
They can be noted, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
Sorry,
you,
was that Councillor Fleming, was it? Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Fleming. I so move. Thank you.
Happy to agree those happy to note those. Thank you. Okay, 7D, Strategy and Resources Committee, 3rd of February 2022. I call on Councillor Chris Swain to present the recommendations coming forward. Councillor Swain.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I move the minutes of the Strategy and Resources Committee meeting on 3rd of February 2022. And present the following recommendations that come forward from that meeting held in the Chamber on the 3rd of February. The first is the review of memorials in cemeteries, parks and open spaces, which included the following recommendations: that the sale of benches as an individual item available for purchase, which are then installed in our parks and open spaces, cease. That a new scheme be introduced where customers can lease a plaque on a bench for a 10-year period. That the updated memorials and cemeteries, parks and open spaces policy, which was attached as Appendix 1, be agreed and implemented no later than the 1st of April 2022. And that the new scheme be introduced with effect from 1st of April 2022 and will not be applied retrospectively. Can I have a seconder for the recommendation?
Councillor Shaughnessy, thank you.
Can we agree these minutes and recommendations via assent, please?
Agreed. Councillor Lagan.
Yeah, I'd just like it noted, as it was in the meeting, that I don't agree to all of these recommendations, and the reasons for that are detailed in Strategy and Resources recording. So I don't I dissent to these recommendations.
Okay, that is noted. Thank you very much. And Councillor Beale.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm looking at the agenda here and there's no 7D. It goes 7C, 7E. So where is 7 Delta?
7D is Strategy and Resources Committee.
We're not.
3rd of February.
You haven't got it. Have you got it? Well, it's not showing up on our screens anyway.
Okay. Right, thank you, Thank you, Councillor Swain. So that is the first one, the lease agreement. I think the members have it in front of them, the recommendations. This is to do with the lease agreement, yeah.
The second item on that, under that particular committee, concerns a lease agreement, which recommended that the Director of Service Delivery seek. It was passed, except we asked for this Director of Service Delivery to seek legal clarification related to clause 16 and 19 of the lease. Subject to one above, the Council agrees a new lease for 30 years for the organisation outlined in the report. That in consultation with the Chairman of the Strategy and Resources Committee, the Director of Service Delivery be given authority to agree the annual rent figure in line with current market valuation with annual retail price index adjustment. Can I have a seconder for that, please?
Councillor Fluker, thank you. I think this can be agreed by assent now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And there were a number of recommendations in there which will be covered by the later budget papers.
Okay, happy to note that, members. Thank you very much. I move now to 7E, Joint Standards Committee, and ask that Councillor Mark Bassinger present the recommendations coming forward. Councillor Bassinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Swain, your microphone's still on. Thank you.
I present the following recommendation coming forward from the Joint Standards Committee meeting held in this chamber on the 8th of February 2022. The recommendation that the Council adopt the Model Code of Conduct attached as Appendix 1, version of May 2021, together with the amendment resolved at the Joint Standards Committee on the 8th of February 2022 to include or well-being in Appendix B, paragraph 9A of the Code, and that the Code take effect by the 1st of November 2022 unless brought into effect prior by the monitoring officer, depending on when Essex County Council bring into effect the new Code of Conduct. Can I have a seconder?
Councillor Fleming, thank you.
Can we agree that by assent?
Sorry.
So, Councillor Morris.
Yeah, I'm going to dissent on that one. Anything that comes up with the Double Standards Committee now, I'm going to be dissenting on. Thank you.
Noted, thank you. Agenda item 8 are minutes of the meetings of the council, and I propose that we note these. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mays, thank you. This is to the Central Planning Committee, South Eastern Planning Committee, District Planning Committee, Overview and Scrutiny, Central Area Planning Committee and North West. Can these be noted by assent? Thank you very much. We now move on to agenda item 9, budget and medium-term financial strategy. Members' attention is drawn to procedure rule 13.5 that sets out the requirement for any vote taken at budget decision meeting as defined by the Local Government Finance Act 1992 to be recorded in the minutes. Although this applies to items 9E and 9F, it may well be that we'll take these en bloc. Members' attention is also drawn to procedure rule 113A that sets out the time limits in relation to the budget speech and details the requirements for making alternative proposal or amendment as part of the budget and council tax setting. Leader, please make your budget statement.
Chairman, do you want me to stand or seat?
No, I'm happy for you to sit.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'll take this off. Chairman, members and officers. The financial year of 2021-22 has been a challenging one for Malden District Council, again impacted by the COVID pandemic, but one in which much has been achieved. The Council has continued supporting the national response to the COVID pandemic, assisting the vaccination programme by provision of the Malden Vaccination Centre delivered by the NHS through our District Council offices. We continue to support our businesses, distributing over 10 million of government support to local businesses to ensure that they, associated jobs and livelihoods are protected. Core services throughout the pandemic have been maintained, including maintaining curbside collection of waste and recycling through working with our partners Suez, despite challenging operation conditions, including the national driver shortage. Delivered environmental health service whilst meeting the increased challenges and regulation regarding COVID. Ongoing delivery of customer engagement and service delivery whilst working remotely. We continued supporting the community response to COVID. We will build on the strong partnerships formed with the establishment of One Malden District, bringing together the public, private and community sectors to support health and well-being in the district. We adopted our climate action strategy, Our Home, Our Future, to bring about positive change for the district. The strategy was welcomed and praised as excellent work by the ECC's Climate Action Commission's chairman. The Malden District Local Development Plan is an essential important document. The LDP review has started and the issues and options consultation is underway, and I urge everyone to engage and respond. Work continued to improve the efficiency of the council via the Process Improvement Programme funded through the 2021 budget. Other notable achievements include resilient IC systems meant we were not impacted by the national Log4j cyber attack in December 2021. Shortlisted for the Workplace Transformation Award for our work on future ways of working. Jointly secured a local digital fund bid of 280,000 with Colchester and Tendring to develop a dynamics task allocation tool in line with our ICT strategy. Continued commitment to encourage residents' views, using them to shape services through running a budget survey as part of the budget setting process, plus our annual resident and business survey. The Council developed and approved a new equality, diversity and inclusion policy with a focus on how we can support and engage better with our communities. In November, we launched the Enough is Enough campaign, highlighting the recent increase in unacceptable behaviour towards our staff and members. This has been supported by other local authorities. We look now to move on from these challenges, but it remains we will challenge any form of unacceptable behaviour towards the Council. I recently became leader of the Council. I thank those that have gone before me. I also thank all councillors and officers for their dedication, relentlessly defending in the fight against COVID, working closely with partners and various other bodies. All have applied great effort to support and protect our communities. We now need to march positively and proactively forward in the recovery from COVID. Promotion and support of our economy, environment, efficient, effective and value services are important. We had to be innovative and adopt new ways of working during the pandemic, and those foundations can be built upon in seeking further improvements in the delivery of accessible, cost-effective services. We need to do the right things, continue to be a council that is focused on its residents. Services need to support people. It matters for them. We need to be responsible. People need to have confidence in our council, our ability to deliver. Therefore, budgets need to be sustainable. It is not just about balancing budgets. It is important that use of reserves is not increasing year on year. We need to look ahead, organise things, consider and take action. With the challenges of the past year, it is not totally unexpected that the budget for the year succumbed to some pressure. There was additional budget pressure that could not be offset. Currently, the forecast indicates 112,000 will be utilised from the General Fund to balance the budget. Council finances may appear healthy with the General Fund reserve currently sitting at 5.6 million. However, the medium-term financial strategy shows increasing budgetary pressures in coming years, forecasting the General Fund level will slip below the minimum reserve level of 2.6 million by 2024-25 unless action is taken. This being against a potentially worsening picture with costs rising due to increased inflation at 5.5%. Regular review of the MTFS will maintain an accurate forecast. The financial settlement from government for 2022-23 is a one-year settlement. It includes business rates baseline funding, lower tier services grant, rural services delivery grant, plus new homes bonus, with an increase to £961,172 from 929,981 in 2021-22. The Rural Services Delivery Grant allocation remains at 32,339, the same as 2021-22. The Services Grant allocation of 105,646 is to help alleviate the 1.25% increase in national insurance. The Provisional Base Homeless Prevention Grant is maintained at 142,320, with an additional £3,690 for domestic abuse. new burdens. It is important to highlight that the settlement funding assessments calculation regarding the core spending power of local authorities includes council increasing council tax by £5 per annum. During the budget setting process for 2022-23, the Council's cross-party finance member working group has met on several occasions to provide input into the budget. I am pleased that members have had the opportunity to work collaboratively and share their views at these and other meetings, particularly the Strategy and Resources Committee. Part of that process ensuring that any growth is kept to a minimum, recognising the financial challenges and unknowns ahead of us. However, some investment was considered right. This includes some additional staffing to ensure services have the capacity to operate, investing in our commercial activity to bring forward income generation and wider benefits for the district, ensuring capacity to deliver on council policy such as the climate action strategy. Due to the financial challenges ahead, 2022-23 requirements are for consolidation, focus on delivery of existing policies and priorities as per our corporate plan 2021-23. The Council will be exploring the opportunities for the district that may emerge from the recently published Levelling Up White Paper. Priorities will include deliver process improvement training for staff and build capacity for continual improvement work across the organisation, review major corporate contracts including waste and leisure, explore opportunities for closer partnership working and shared service opportunities with other local authorities where they improve efficiency, enhance resilience and capacity of the individual councils. Deliver a customer access strategy linking with the ICC strategy and process improvement framework and demonstrating how we will support our customers offline. Deliver an updated commercial strategy seeking to increase council income through an approach that brings together our strategy and commercial objectives. Tourism is a key driver for our local economy and the council can help to create opportunities for further growth and prosperity, focusing again on our tourism offer now restrictions are lifting. All members need to be kept informed, engaged with, so enabling greater understanding and sound decision making. Officers have been charged to prepare briefings on, initially, commercial projects and the Levelling Up White Paper. Constant challenge remains to ensure best value services and deal with the need for financial sustainability whilst acknowledging the pressures that households are also facing. Bearing in mind our financial pressures and the need for financial sustainability, we are proposing that Malden District's Council Band E council tax is increased by £5 for 2022-23. This equates to 42p per month for a Band E property. Whilst bringing in this increase, we note that Government has recognised the pressures currently facing both councils and residents and has introduced a £150 refund for those in Band A to D properties, as well as allocating money for a discretionary fund. The council tax rise of £5 equates to approximately 10p a week. The council continues to be impacted by the cost of COVID. Inflation is now at 5.5%. Council tax increase is well below at 2.41%, and commercial activity is being developed to generate income. The council is the guardian of the public purse and needs to spend wisely. To ensure our residents know how we perform, if services are efficient, effective and best value, do we deliver on our priorities? Officers are charged to prepare an easily readable, understandable annual report for them. I thank Mr. Chris Leslie, the Director of Resources, and his team for all the hard work they have done regarding the budget. Chairman, I commend the budget to this council.
Thank you, Leader. There is now an opportunity for the Leader of the Opposition to respond. As he's not here, did you have a response, Councillor Stilts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am pleased that the Leader of the Council has acknowledged the hard work that has been put into this year and subsequent years with the COVID problems that we've had. I also like to commend to the Leader that this budget and thank her for all the hard work that has been put into it.
Thank you very much. There will be an opportunity for members to speak later, but not right now. Right, agenda item We're now going to move to agenda item 9A, B, C and D, E and F. That is the capital and investment strategies for 2022-23, a minimum revenue statement 22-23, the treasury management strategy 22-23, the discretionary fees and charges for 22-23, the medium-term financial strategy 22-23 to 24-25, and the revised 2021-22 estimates, the original 2022-23 budget estimates, and council tax 22-23, and the council tax for 2022 and 23. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mays, thank you. Mr. Leslie, can you please present the report?
Thank you, Chairman. I would just like to recap on the member engagement that has taken place this year as part of the budget process. The cross-party finance working group met 8 times throughout this year and followed a work plan that was set out right at the very beginning. The fees and charges policy went to the S&R committee in November with the detailed fees and charges and the growth and pressure items going to the committee twice for consideration. That's in January and then again in February time. An all-member briefing was also held in January as part of the presentation, and the Q&As were circulated along with that presentation, as well as an opportunity to ask any questions. And these reports reflect those figures. Turning now to page 220 of the pack in the medium-term financial strategy report. That's table 1 of that report. This details the forecast budget changes over the next 3 years and shows an increasing budget gap. Next year, a drawdown from the general fund balance of £452,000 is included in the budget, with this rising to 1.6 million by 24-25 if no action is taken and assumptions remain the same. This is despite a £5 increase in council tax included in the forecast, which I would recommend to ensure the gap does not increase further. This is an increase of less than 42p a month, representing a 2.4% increase against a current inflation rate of 5.5%. In addition to the inflationary pressures, COVID has continued to have a financial impact, and we are now seeing where these pressures are expected to continue in the future. Page 221 at paragraph 6.1 of the same report attempts to quantify the impact COVID has had on the council's finances on an ongoing basis and shows a potential impact of £700,000 next year. That's in comparison to the £452,000 gap, of course. Although the budget gap for next year has been reduced from that projected last February, the significant additional cost pressures from COVID and inflation means that the use of general fund reserve is still required. On table 4 of page 222, this shows the council's projected general fund balance based on the funding gaps and shows by the end of 24-25 the balance would fall below the recommended level of 2.6 million. Although the general fund balance is historically high currently, the increasing gap and ongoing need to draw down from it will need to be addressed quickly. As with previous years, the capital and treasury strategies confirm there is no underlying need to borrow to fund capital expenditure and sets out how the surplus cash is to be invested in accordance with the Prudential Code and advice from our treasury management consultants. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Councillor Fluker.
Thank you, Chairman. Are we going to go? I always get terribly confused, and I'm pleased that no one else is confused tonight. But I did want to propose a recommendation under item 9.
Could I just ask you to move a bit closer to the mic? Thank you.
Can you not hear me? That must be.
Thank you.
How lovely! How lovely for you, Chairman. How lovely. There's a lot of rough company in here, Chairman. I don't know if you can see them to my left. But Chairman, I wanted to make a proposal in relation to agenda item 9E and paragraph 2 in particular. I mean, I'm not sure if you're going to go through all of these reports under 9E and recommendations, or when's the appropriate time to do it. But I'll be guided by you, Chairman, and I'm happy to do it at the very end when you take.
Are you saying an amendment?
No, Chairman, you can't bring forward an amendment to the budget. But what I'm saying to you is, Chairman, that my proposal does accord with Procedure Rule 113B, and it's not a proposal to change or amend the budget, and it's something that I have, Chairman, spoken to the 151 officer about, and he's content for me to put the proposal. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, would you like to do that now?
Okay, so, Chairman, with regards to agenda item 9E and paragraph 2, the recommendations, Chairman, first of all, I would just like to remind members that to deliver this budget, a substantial drawdown of reserves will be necessary, which over the course of the forthcoming municipal year will amount to almost £10,000 per week. That is unsustainable, and the Section 151 officer comments and cautions Council in his report that unless we act soon, our reserves will run out. And I think he's made that quite clear where our position will be in 24-25. The depletion of reserves at this speed, Chairman, is neither conducive nor supportive of the delivery of income generating through corporate projects. Having reviewed the notes of the corporate project working group, my view is that there will be no significant income generated from corporate projects for at least 18 months. A financially weak council, Chairman, will not be in a strong position to make its case for the retention of assets when the inevitable mergers of local authorities take place. If we run out of reserves, we may have to merge prematurely, which would mean place shaping would no longer be exclusively in the hands of local people, and planning issues, including the allocation of strategic sites, would be determined by others from outside of the district. During the taper down to that position, we will need to reduce our overheads, cut services, and inevitably cut jobs. I recognise the work of the finance member working group, and I've read their notes, and I know how difficult that is, and I'm nearly finished. But believe, given the council's fiscal position, the group should be expanded to include additional members who don't sit on the Strategy and Resources Committee, because this is a council-wide situation we're in now, Chairman, and I think it is quite grave, and I think that that should be pushed out to allow members to put their views forward informally within that working group. Members, in my mind, we need to act now, and having consulted with the Section 151 officer, I would make the following proposal. I propose, Chairman, that with immediate effect, a full budget review is carried out by a cross-chamber, cross-committee working group, and that group reports back to Council with its recommendations in spring. I mean, somebody suggested to me today that that could actually be a mini-budget, and it may well be that's the case. But I really do think, Chairman, at £10,000 a week over the next 50-odd weeks, we really do need to get weaving. So, Chairman, amongst all of that is my proposal, and I thank you.
Thank you. Leslie, did you want to come back on any of that at all?
No, I feel that's a member decision, really.
Okay, are members happy to, do any members want further clarification? Councillor Fluker.
I mean, Chairman, I understand that what Mr. Leslie said, but clearly if this was acceptable, Chairman, to Council, obviously Mr. Leslie would be happy to support us. I think he might better go that far.
Make a succinct proposal.
All right, could I ask you then to, just for the benefit of the clerk, to repeat your proposal, please?
Chairman, I propose that with immediate effect, a full budget review is carried out by a cross-chamber, cross-committee working group, and that the group reports back to Council with its recommendations in the spring. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Leader?
Thank you, Chairman. Could I just say something to that? We do actually have an all-member cross-party, if you like, well, not all-member, cross-party working group called the Finance Working Group, which Mr. Leslie and myself have both referred to during our speeches. And rather like the Policy Planning Working Group is going to open up to all members, I would make that a probable suggestion rather than having cross-party across the chamber possibly, because as I said in my speech, I have asked officers to make sure all members get briefed on matters, and there is a commercial projects briefing coming forward for all members of this chamber, because I think when it does get to important decisions having to be made, that all members need to have the same level of understanding and indeed engagement, because to make very serious decisions, I think that's very, very important. So I would say that we do have the cross-party finance working group, which does, I appreciate, come from Strategy and Resources, but that is the committee which has under its remit the budgetary things that this has to go through. Hence tonight, while we have had all the documents and recommendations coming from that committee to this council. So I just make those points, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Tara, is it possible to have the proposal on screen at all, please?
Yes, Chairman, if you give me a moment.
Okay. Does any other member wish to speak? Councillor Swain.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, I agree to some extent with what Councillor Fluke is saying, and certainly we are all in the same boat in that we do need to cooperate because of the challenges that are facing us over the next year or two. Made more uncertain actually in these budget papers because Mr. Leslie has had to err on the side of well, being conservative, should we say, and because there were so many large unknowns on both ways. My qualm about Councillor Fluker's idea is really how such an open all-member working group would actually function.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Edwards next.
Just a question to Mr. Leslie, if I may. The new homes bonus scheme, is that dependent on an updated local development plan?
Sir Leslie.
No, that's not dependent on the local development plan. It's currently based on the number of new build properties and also a number of new affordable build properties. However, there's currently a consultation that's just concluded recently, and the scheme may well change. So we're still waiting for details of a new scheme and how that may operate.
Thank you. I was reading up about it, and the new scheme does state that it has to have an updated local development plan to participate in that new home scheme. Thank you.
Sir Durham.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Chairman, I acknowledge what Councillor Channer, or the leader, has said, but I agree with Councillor Fluker in actual fact. I actually don't think that he's suggesting that everybody is involved in this. I think what he's suggesting is that it should be just wider than members of Strategy and Resources. So it needs to be cross-party, but the members of Strategy and Resources, there are representatives from all elements of the council, but I think that he's quite right in that so that there is a wider appreciation, there should be members from other committees. It's certainly not something for every member to get involved in. But I think, Chairman, the importance, as Councillor Fluker has mentioned, is the fact that it's vitally important that this authority gets on a sound financial footing. Because we are all aware of what was in the Levelling Up White Paper, and the final part of that involved potential reorganisation. It's too early to predict exactly how that reorganisation of local government will fall, but the discussions are already underway. And as Councillor Fluker says very eloquently, you know, if we have burned all of our reserves, effectively burned all of our boats, we are not going to be in a strong position when it comes to negotiating whatever format the new local government environment is. Thank you.
Thank you. I will come back to Councillor Fluker, but Councillor Lagan is next.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I find myself in agreement with the leader of the council. I mean, I don't see why we need to expand it out when we've got the remit that's established anyway within that committee. I think we should have less bureaucracy, less process. We've got professional officers who've done an extremely good job bringing this to us. What we need is some of the assets and the aspects of the council that we can sell, bring forward, make decent commercial decisions to shore up the services going forward. So I think that we've actually got enough in here, but we should look within that committee at looking at other things to be able to realise the cash from assets like this building that can be used to bolster up the finances going forward to the future. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. I do hear what Councillor Fluke is saying, and I agree with our prospects. We've got to push the commercial side forward. But I don't agree that we should have anything that gets too unwieldy. I mean, after all, and I'm not being entirely flippant when I say if every member did everything, we could dispense with all the committees, do everything at council, and invest in a decent sleeping bag, because it's we have got all member briefings coming up specifically on the corporate projects and also on the budget. So obviously I would urge all members with an interest in these things to attend, in fact all members to attend. And I think as the planning policy working group has invited other members to join it, I would commend to the working group and S&R that we do in fact perhaps invite some other people, invite those who are keen to come.
Okay.
But it is, I think Councillor Hagen said, and the leader said it, the terms of reference for these matters do sit with S&R, and I think strategy and resources should be dealing with it through the working group, who obviously are not decision making, but give recommendations to S&R. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Stamp.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm in agreement with the leader. I think she's demonstrated tonight by her speech that she's continuing the cross-party and the working together that was introduced previously when I was the leader, and I think it's really important that we continue to do that. I totally take on board what Councillor Fluke has said, and I do agree with him to a certain extent, but I don't agree with him on this. I think that like what the leaders turned around and said, we are opening it up to all members when we get to a certain stage, when a lot of the hard and the graft and the discussions have been, and then every opportunity is given to councillors when we open it up. Obviously, May will change, the working groups and the committees will change in May anyway, and I think we should leave it as it is, and then if we've got new members on those committees or new chairs or whatever, and then maybe look at it in 6 months again. But at the moment, I think what the leaders said is very commendable, and I totally agree with her, rather than Councillor Fluker tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fluker, did you want to come back on any of that?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. I mean, look, this recommendation is in two parts, and I mean, I take enormous comfort in what the deputy leader said when she just said that the finance member and working group could invite other members onto it. My concern about this, Chairman, is that just by virtue of our own constitution, some members are excluded from sitting on this working group, and not because they're not on strategy and resources, but because they sit on, for example, overview and scrutiny. And if you're on overview and scrutiny, then you can't sit on strategy and resources. Now, I know that there are people that are on overview and scrutiny committee, Chairman. For example, my friend sitting next to me, who has an enormous amount of experience with local government finance, and I know other people that are on that committee that could bring forward their own skill set in relation to business. And this is why I would like to see this group expanded out. The other thing, Chairman, is this is all to do with bringing a recommendation back in the spring. Now, I hear that what Councillor Stamp says about hard work discussions have already taken place by the time that working group reports back. But she was talking about 6 months, Chairman. And as things stand at the moment, by the time we get to 6 months, that'll be £250,000 gone from our reserves. Now, I'm not happy to wait. I mean, I hear what Councillor Lagan says, but for some bizarre reason, the Asset Management Working Group disappeared off the agenda. I was told, Chairman, that the Corporate Projects Working Group had picked up the work of that working group, but when you look at the notes from that working group, they haven't really done that at all. So I know Mr. Holmes has agreed with Strategy and Resources to reopen that working group, but we need to get a move on, Chairman, because as I said, in 6 months' time, that's £250,000 gone out the bank. And I think we should throw this open. I'm not suggesting that it is for everybody. I like the fact that the deputy leader is saying perhaps the finance member working group could be, you know, they could expand it out for another couple of members to join it. You know, I'm not talking about an unruly working group. I'm just talking about how do we get out of this mess? I mean, you know, look, 24-25, we've got a £1.5 million funding gap. We need to act now. If we don't act now, it could be more than 1.5 million. I spoke to quite an experienced member today who said to me, oh, it's never as bad as what the 151 officer predicts. Well, if it's not as bad as 1.5, even if it's £1 million, that's a lot of money, Chairman. And it leaves this local authority, for which we are all responsible for. The money isn't ours, it belongs to our residents. We need, Chairman, to act and act quickly. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I understand that. Leader.
Thank you, Chairman. I've heard with intent what Councillor Fluke had said, and I can see where he may be coming from. However, he's saying expand it and people coming from across the chamber. And he's saying that people that don't sit on SNR form the working group. Well, that's like every other working group in various committees. I think what we're saying is people could be invited to the working group, because what Councillor Fluke is inventing to set up is exactly that, really, a working group with the wider remit. But the working group from finance could be opened up, as the policy planning is, to all members. What I would say is, Councillor Fluke referred to a mess that we're in. I would like to say I'm aware the finance working group actually, on the number of occasions they've met, did a lot of hard work. And in fact, the budget gap was brought down significantly and substantially by the work that they did. It started off with a much higher amount than we might be seeing now. So I really do feel I pay tribute to the finance working group in my speech. I did say, Councillor Fluke, I hope I made it clear about actions needing to come forward and move. I hope behind my message that was clear what this authority needs to do. And that is why I have asked officers to ensure all members are briefed. And I do believe all members should be briefed on certain things, the commercial projects. That's going to be very interesting. The levelling up white paper and matters to do with the budget. Because all members need to have that comprehension when we get a report coming to this chamber for whatever major decisions we need to make in the future. And that's where I stand. And I would like to pay regard to the Strategy and Resources Committee as well. That is cross-party, and that is another committee that has done a lot of work, as has PGA, so I'm not leaving out Councillor Stilts. But I do think we do need to follow our governance on this. And why do we want another working group when we've already got one? We're just adding again, and I have already asked for working groups to be reviewed, and a review of working groups will be happening, because actually I do have some concerns about reporting back and ensuring that things are done in the chamber and not decisions being made elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Swain.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes. I think there's a case for expanding the workshops, inviting or allowing additional people to participate in the working groups. But what Councillor Fluker seems to be advocating is a completely ad hoc activity quite outside our committee working group arrangements. And that doesn't seem right.
Councillor Boyce.
Chairman, I wonder whether there's a compromise here, because I think everybody is on the same side on this. The leader, I believe, or the deputy leader, made reference to expanding the financial working group to members outside of strategy and resources. And I'm sure I would ask that Councillor Fluker, perhaps if the leader would confirm this, and I'd ask Councillor Fluker to withdraw his proposal with the support of his second.
Councillor Fluker.
Well, Chairman, I'd really like, before I can do anything, we need to have some kind of clarity whether or not the finance member working group can be expanded. But we mustn't lose sight of the fact it's all about This is all about bringing a recommendation back as quickly as possible, Chairman, in the spring, because the clock is ticking. So, I mean, I'm waiting for the leader or the deputy leader to clarify. But I would have thought, Chairman, and the irony of the fact that I'm on strategy and resources isn't lost on me, but I'm not on this working group. But, I just think, Chairman, there are one or two people in this chamber who could be an enormous asset to that working group, Chairman, but at the moment they are precluded. And I don't include myself because I am on that committee.
Okay, I want to try and wind this up, but I want to go to Councillor Stamp again. I know.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for coming back. I think it's a different matter. I mean, Councillor Fluke is actually asking to change terms of references, and that needs to be done separately tonight. I think we should ask Mr Dodson if it's allowed that somebody else can go on the finance working group that hasn't already been agreed or nominated at the statutory annual meeting. And I think that could maybe be done in May. You're only talking about a couple of months. It's not that long, is it? So why can't the officers look at revising the terms of the committees or the finance working group, Councillor Dodson, Mr Dodson, and do it that way? And then, Councillor Fluker, it's only 2 months before they set up. No, and to be fair, we are in this position. I mean, we've had a Conservative government leadership for such a long time, not government, please forgive me, at this council. So 2 more months waiting is not going to make a lot of difference, is it, Chairman?
Okay, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. Having had a very brief consultation with the leader, I can confirm to Councillor Fluker that the idea is that, yes, we would have all member workshops and then all interested members can attend, and I would encourage everybody to attend. If we don't mess about with the terms of reference of the working group and of S&R, then we don't get into any problems with the constitution, although I must say it's my own view that the rules about which combination of committees you can sit on should probably be looked at. But I can confirm that the leader does certainly propose in very short order to hold workshops where all members can give their views and put forward their ideas. So if he would be prepared to consider withdrawing his proposal, we can reassure him on that.
Okay, I'll allow you one more, Councillor Voice.
I'm sorry, Chairman, but it just seems that I was misunderstood. And I'll make the point that council is sovereign. So Councillor Stamp doesn't need to refer to Mr Dodson. If the council decides it wants to do something, the council can do it.
Okay.
The working group, the membership of the working group was what I was proposing be expanded, or ask the leader for confirmation that it could be expanded outside of strategy and resources. What the deputy leader was referring to was workshops for all members. And the other issue that Councillor Fluker has highlighted is the need for it to start tomorrow, not with due deference to Mrs Stamp. May is more than 2 months away, I think.
All right. Councillor Fluker, having listened to the discussion, do you still want to pursue your proposal?
Chairman, I was rather hoping that the leader was going to cede, and even if she just says that it will go back to, to the finance member working group, and say, for example, expanding. We're only talking about 1 or 2 people, trying to get the right people in the room. It's to support them. It's the future of this council, and to delay it any longer, Chairman, and this is why I brought this forward, to make sure that we get something back to this council in the spring.
I think she is saying that, but leader?
Well, I thought that's what I was saying, actually. I could imagine that more than imagine, but there's what I'm saying is there's a member finance working group. What Councillor Fluker is actually saying, we're going to have a similar working group set up with everyone, to a degree, across the council. Yeah, you are, Councillor Fluker, you're saying to look at things, do like a mini budget possibly and bring that forward. That should be charged, in my view, to the finance working group that currently has membership. But there could be invitations, I'm sure, that could allow that to be broadened up. And that would be like the member working group to look at it, because I think other members should have the opportunity to be invited to it.
Chairman, if I could come back,
Well, I'd just like to hear what Councillor Skeens has got to say first. He hasn't spoken yet.
I'll just say that we've listened to this debate for quite a while now, and I personally feel that we should move to the votes on it. I don't think there's much more that needs to be discussed. And secondly, with concern with Councillor Beale and the fact that it's cold here, any objection to closing this window?
No.
Thank you.
Right, Councillor Fluker then.
Yeah,
if you could
thank you,
just,
Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. I think we've moved on slightly further than perhaps where the leader thought we were, because I thought that, you know, we were moving towards withdrawing my proposal on the understanding that the working group could be expanded by a couple of members. I see them both, Chairman, for the benefit of the camera and the tape, I see them both nodding, and I take great comfort in that. But I think the thing is, I think that the chairman of S&R or the vice chairman, you know, needs to take on board that this is urgent and we need to bring something back in the spring. Chairman, if the leader is content to move that forward, Councillor Boyce is quite sure, you know, that we are sovereign and we can make that decision. And after all, we're not trying to be difficult. We're trying to get to the position to bring some strength back into the council fiscally, which we desperately need to do.
Yeah.
So on that, Chairman, I will withdraw my recommendation.
Okay, and Councillor
long
Durham,
time
you
to
seconded. Right. Okay. Right. Okay, members. So then we go back to items 9A to 9E. And are there any other questions on those? No. Right. Okay. What I'm going to do is we are required to have a recorded vote for E and F. However, I'm prepared to take them all en bloc and do a recorded vote on those. So, Councillor Mays, are you able to take?
I know Tara.
Oh, Tara, are you able to?
She said that.
Oh, yes, of course, you're with us now,
Yeah,
aren't
she's
you?
with us now.
Good to see you. Okay, so are you able to take a recorded vote now, please?
A to 9E, 9F, sorry. If you could indicate for abstain, or for against or abstain when I call your names, please. Starting with Councillor Messenger.
4.
You, Councillor Ms Beale.
4.
Councillor Beale.
4.
Councillor Boyce.
4.
Hannah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear it. Sorry, no, I'm seriously. Did anyone else hear it? Yeah, 4, please, 4.
I didn't hear it. Councillor Dewey.
4.
Councillor Durham.
4.
Woods.
4.
Fleming.
4.
4.
4.
4.
4.
4. Councillor Keys.
4. 4, please, Tara.
4.
4.
None.
4.
Shaughnessy.
4.
Eames.
4.
Councillor Stamp.
4.
Councillor Stevens.
4.
Mr Stilts.
4.
Bain.
4.
Thompson.
4.
Ms White.
4.
And the result of that are 27 for, no against, and no abstention. Just to clarify, just call Councillor Morris's name because he advised you wasn't voting on that item. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Tara. Okay, that is agreed then. We are now moving on to agenda item 10, which is a notice of motion. And in accordance with notice duly given under Procedure Rule 4, Councillor Morris is to move the following motion, which has been duly seconded by Councillor Mark Bassinger. Councillor Morris, can you please present your motion?
Thank you very much. The motion is that Malden District Council resolves to write an open letter to MPs John Whittingdale and Priti Patel, who are the districts that I've gone off piste on the actual piece of writing. I did send an email off. I'm not sure whether or not committee services have received it, but whether or not that has to go in as an amendment, I'm open to the chairman's guidance on that one. I'll start that again. Malvern District Council resolves to write an open letter to MPs John Whittingdale and Priti Patel, asking them to raise the lack of GP access by possible parliamentary question, if necessary, in our district, and inquire about emergency funding for Malvern District and any other areas with high patient-to-doctor ratios to assist the residents and the emergency departments of our hospitals, which are also under strain in these medically deprived areas. Members, I would hope that all of us do agree that one of the biggest problems to our residents, one of the biggest gripes for all of our residents, is the lack of appointments at the GP surgeries in this district.
Councillor Bassinger, are you happy to second this motion?
Mr. Chairman, I am happy to second the motion.
Okay. Members, questions? Councillor Stamp?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
I'm so sorry. Councillor Thompson was first.
Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. At the risk of sounding flippant, I really do want to make sure that when we vote on this, we know exactly what we're voting on. If we had a high doctor-to-patient ratio, we wouldn't have a problem. I think that should probably be expressed the other way around. High patient
to doctor.
Yeah, thank you.
It is an amendment.
Yes.
It is indeed. Is that amendment seconded?
Second.
Are you proposing that as an amendment, Councillor Boyce?
I'm just saying that if the motion before us, Chairman, is being changed in any way, that therefore must be an amendment.
Yes, I agree, yes.
And the Deputy Leader has proposed, in my view, an amendment. I don't know whether it was seconded, but once an amendment's been made, of course, then the debate is on the amendment.
Yes. Yeah. Councillor Bassinger, are you happy for that amendment to be made?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy for that amendment.
Right. Okay. Right. Councillor Stamp next.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to say, of course, I'm sure everybody in this chamber would support another letter going to Mr. Whittingdale and another amendment to Priti Patel. But I'd like to also say that this council has for many, many years attended many meetings with many discussions with not only the MP, but with the NHS. I myself, when I was the leader, attended many meetings. I'm going to hand over to my deputy, which was Stephen Nunn, and he still attended one of those meetings yesterday. And we always bang the drum, as I'm sure that Councillor Boyce has been around a long time, no disrespect, but I'm sure he's been doing it for a numberous amount of years anyway. And I think it was well minuted that I think some of the previous leaders was in discussions about a medical centre coming. So, you know, I'd like to totally agree with the proposal of the motion, but I also think it's important to know that many councillors have also been in correspondence, and every opportunity they get to raise this concern has been raised. And I'd like to hand over to Mr. Councillor Nunn, because he's attended many of these sessions.
I will come to Councillor Nunn, but I'd like to hear from the leader first. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think we all can agree with the essence of the motion, and I most certainly, and you've highlighted it, Councillor Stamp, and I'm sure Councillor Nunn will, I certainly have made representations to the NHS and indeed, obviously, our MPs, and I'm sure every member in this chamber may have. What I would like to say is, though, regarding the letter, what I can advise is, of course, John Whittingdale, the MP, I can't speak for Priti Patel, although I'm pretty sure that's the same from what other members have said in my group who obviously do engage with Priti Patel. But Mr. Whittingdale has already done many of these things. He's actually, he's acutely aware of the continued problems that his constituents are experiencing. And I can advise, Councillor Morris said about asking a question in Parliament, that has already occurred. In fact, he did at a meeting in December meet with the Mid-Essex Clinical Commissioning Groups to discuss in full these issues actually that the council now has got before it, and about the action they're taking. And they're aware of the strength of the feeling of the constituents, as I think Mr Whittingdale, but all our individual constituents as well, because I do know we are making representation. And there's really, I can say, about two main elements to the current state with the appointments, and it's about contact and booking, I think, which is what Councillor Morris is referring to, and also about the whole care received during an appointment. And he has asked a question in December in the House of Commons to the Minister, who responded regarding the telephone systems and funding and about face-to-face meetings with GPs. It's about the telephone infrastructure so it can actually handle the increased demand. And the Secretary of State, Sarah David, has also initiated a national push to improve the telephone systems, gets to do with other things. Now, I am aware, of course, I think it was in December, it was Edward Arger MP that was the Minister of State for Department of Health and Social Care that Mr Whittingdale placed those questions. There is a recording of it, so anyone can see what I'm saying. And I'm also aware, and I'm sure the previous leader and leader designate to myself would have had meetings, liaison meetings with the MPs, where I'm sure this is a very live issue. So I would like to suggest or put to council that perhaps we do deal with this and give updates to members through the MP liaison meetings, because I, as the leader, and the deputy leader will have those meetings, and certainly this is something that will be on the agenda. I'm aware of our officers also have discussions, but actually I think because Mr Whittingdale has done that recently, then perhaps the letter should be framed that it's an update, perhaps on the situation, the current state of play as of now, to see, having placed that questioning and being given those answers, how far that may have progressed by the time the letter sort of gets to him. That's what I would say, bearing in mind some of those things have happened. It would be useful perhaps get the update from both MPs.
Right, Councillor Nunn I'll go to next.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, I agree with what's been said so far, and whilst I concur that this motion is very well-meaning and is in the right direction, the public need to be aware that this is not a new issue. This is not something that's just come up at this meeting, that many of us in this chamber have had correspondence with our residents, have been complaining and have been trying to deal with this for some time now. So this is a long-standing concern. I personally have complained both verbally and in writing to Malden Surgery and had exchanges with them. I've also had verbal conversations and also written exchanges with the CCG, and I've also discussed this issue with John Whittingdale directly. The CCG is well aware of the concerns that we have here in Malden, and as a result they put an inspection team into one of the surgeries recently to see what they could do to address that. There are programmes of intervention. There's a programme of support, including financial support, which the CCG are working with the surgery on. And I agree with the leader that this has been already raised in the House by the MP. So I concur with the leader, and I would second the leader's proposal when we get to that stage, that actually what we want is an update from the MP on the actions that have been taken, as opposed to starting from scratch.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Durham.
Yeah, thank you. As has already been said by the leader and Councillor Stamp and others, this has been a major issue for as long as I've been around. For many, many years, we have been trying to improve both primary care and trying to secure a new hospital for Malden. I chaired for quite a long time the hospital working group, where we were meeting with the NHS and Provide and the CCG and NHS estates, and I was actually instrumental in walking away from that because it was just a complete and utter waste of time. The NHS, Provide and all the other stakeholders are not joined up, and we were just going nowhere and we were wasting time. The MPs are fully aware of that situation, and we expressed our extreme frustration at the lack of progress to secure the facilities needed for Malden, which are much needed. not only in terms of primary care and GP provision, but to get a new hospital. But we were absolutely going nowhere. Dealing with the NHS, Chairman, is probably one of the most frustrating and hardest operations that there is. They are, I'm afraid to say, largely dysfunctional in that they don't talk to one another. We sat in meetings in this chamber where various arms of the NHS, they hadn't even spoken to each other since the previous meeting. So that is why we walked away. But certainly everybody in this authority, their main objective is to try and secure better primary care and hopefully, in the fullness of time, a new hospital replacement for St Peter's. There is, of course, new healthcare facilities as part of the North Heybridge Garden Suburb development and funding for that. But absolutely, it's been top of our agenda for many, many years, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Before we take any other speakers, I think the leader has an amended motion.
Well, I'm just going to say what the amendment is. It hasn't been seconded yet, but really based on what I've said, and I've heard what Councillor Nunn has said as well, and really bearing in mind the situation isn't new, and Mr Whittingdale and Pretty Patel, I'm sure, have done the same thing. If really what I'm proposing is an update letter acknowledging the work, and what they've found out so far, the current state of play, Chairman, on the situation, and responses through the leader MP liaison meetings as well, and that's officers involved. So there's two tranches. The liaison meetings should keep it ongoing, but this council could get the update letter from both Mr Whittingdale and Pretty Patel if that's what's sought.
Seconded.
Yeah, we're going to do all three amendments.
Right, that has been seconded by Councillor Nunn. I've got a number of speakers. Councillor Skeens next.
Yes, I mean, I welcome this motion. I don't recall us discussing this in this detail before, though of course I completely accept that just about every member in this council has done everything they can to address this issue. But I think that we need to send a letter. I think the way that this letter is written is fine, though we could add to it, and please give us an update. Like, why on earth would they not do that automatically? Because we should be told automatically. This is a vital thing. The more pressure we put on, the better. And I don't know whether Mr Whittingdale actually talked about the problem we've got with a new hospital here when he asked this question. I didn't hear the question, but I think he should be put under some pressure to keep on banging this drum. And I think that Councillors Bassinger and Councillor Morris are right to bring this issue, and I support the motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Boyce, I know you did have your hand up.
I think what I was going to raise was that we are actually debating the leader's amendment. And I just wanted to clarify, but you actually was there in front of me for a change. Or perhaps you read my mind. But the issue now is we're not debating this motion, we're debating the amendment, to this. And an amendment can be the adding or deleting words.
Yeah, that's right.
So we need to.
Councillor Morris.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that by asking for an update, all we'd be doing is inviting to be fobbed off.
Maybe.
This is, and the expression beating the drum has been used. Basically, all of us doing our own little things. It's more like a little shake of the caracas. This is a big bass drum. It needs a solid message, a very clear and concise question to be asked of both of our parliamentary representatives to take this forward by parliamentary question or not. If we allow the amendment to go through, what we're basically doing is diluting the whole motion. Yeah, we might not be able to change much in the primary care, the GP surgery issue currently, but it shouldn't stop us from asking. We must put this forward to show our residents that we care. I would very much ask the other councillors to just look at the bigger picture, that the whole council, every councillor here would be asking for better GP services for the residents and not just an update on it so the Tories can get out of it.
Can I go to Councillor Bassinger next, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to say that I really do appreciate, and I do know that this council has and members have made every effort to engage with the NHS and try and get them to give us a hospital and whatever. But I think we need to look specifically at the one line here, which is to raise the lack of GP access, and that is something that's very specific to the last 2 years. Now it's very, very difficult, and I don't understand why, to see your GP. And I think we should have an update for all the previous engagements, but I do think specifically we should really ask, they need to let this go. People need to see their GPs. They don't need to send pictures on their phones or phone up and be fobbed off by a secretary or a receptionist. They need to be able to phone up, make an appointment and go back to seeing their GPs. So that's what I would like this letter to emphasise. Thank you.
Recorded vote, please, Chairman.
Yes, okay, all right. I think there was another speaker. Could you just... right, Councillor Thompson.
Oh, we've now this one here, Chairman. Sorry, just a point of clarification. When we're talking about an updated letter, we've already written a letter. Therefore, we're sending another letter. We're not beginning at the beginning. But I absolutely hear what Councillor Bassinger is saying, and a lot of this is about actual access to GPs and not this phone call business, which certainly, in my neck of the district we suffer from. It would actually have been very helpful if that had been kind of included as part of the proposal, because then we'd have known we weren't repeating ourselves. But I absolutely take on board what Councillor Bassinger said, and I agree with that 100%. But we're still talking about an updated letter because we've done it before. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. Well, maybe I lost the plot there slightly then, because I thought we'd just gone back to saying let's send the letter like it is, other than the 2 MPs and the ratio being the other way around. I think we've got to acknowledge that there's already been work on this. Otherwise, we'll just get a reply back that says, well, we did this in December or whenever it was you said it was. We've got to acknowledge where we are. Otherwise, we'll just be sent back. Thank you.
And Councillor Swain.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'm a little confused about what the leader put forward seemed to be another motion rather than an amendment to this, and therefore would surely be out of order. Unless the leader can actually amend what we've got here to, with some phrase or other, to meet her requirements, I think what she said is another motion. I think this one that we've got on the agenda is a little bit off beam, actually. There is a lot been going on in terms of changing the way healthcare is provided. A lot of new disciplines, new outstations, new clinics in different places in order to try and do things in a different way. And now there are further fundamental changes underway. The CCG itself is going to be morphed into something more complicated, which they don't know quite how they're going to do at the moment. And they are with a greater emphasis on prevention, and it's going to be combining healthcare with health services with care in some way. So it's going to become even more of a quagmire to deal with. Having said that, we all know that the key thing has been the lack of this new health centre or hub or whatever they call it in Malden, which would benefit the GP practices, particularly Blackwater. And this is held up not primarily by the NHS, but because of the site, which is at the back end of a development that hasn't taken place or started yet, and dependent partly on the South Malden Relief Road, which is itself partly dependent on progress which has been much delayed in the North Heybridge Garden suburb.
I think we're going off the original motion, Councillor.
And so, in fact, the problem lies with dependence on developers in getting this moving. Writing a letter to John Whittingdale isn't going to have any effect at all. It's unless he's going to get these developers moving fast.
All right, Councillor Durham.
Yeah, thank you. I think Councillor Swain, with the greatest respect, has gone a bit off piece there himself. I don't see this as being a new motion. I think what Councillor Channer has mentioned and what Councillor Bassinger has mentioned, I think by amending the original motion to include our request that there is a pressure on the primary care to resume face-to-face appointments, because that is one of the major concerns. And that is something that is a lot easier to rectify. We are not going to recruit new GPs overnight. We are not going to build new health facilities overnight. But the existing GP surgeries can resume their pre-COVID protocols. And I absolutely think that that is a perfectly valid amendment to that motion. And if that is done, I would support it. And going back to Councillor Swain again and Councillor Stamp, I recall with Councillor Boyce that we met with John Whittingdale and at the time the head of the NHS, I suspect there's been 7 or 8 heads of the NHS since then, at Three Rivers Golf Club during the first examination in public of our LDP. That goes to show you how far back we were having face-to-face meetings with the MP and the NHS, and we got that close to it. And it fell away. Okay. But so everybody is up to it. But I'm very happy if that is an amendment to the motion that's on the table to resume face-to-face appointments, and I'd be happy to second and support that. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Morris and then Councillor Nunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the appointment system is actually a side issue because hybrid appointments probably would suit the medical profession better. If you don't need to see the doctor, but you can ask them for something over the phone, you should be allowed to do that. If you need to see a doctor face to face, that is your right. That should be the way it is. What I would like to remind the chamber is that currently we have 1,993 patients per doctor in this district, and that needs to be brought down. That is one of the worst ratios in the country, as I understand it. Right. That is the problem, and the only way through that would be extra funding. And we need to put our parliamentary representatives on notice that this is what the district wants and the council wants.
All right, that's what the motion is about. Councillor Nunn.
Yes, I can help Councillor Durham with a bit more currency than the meeting that he's talking about, because only yesterday Councillor Swain and myself were at a meeting with the CCG talking about exactly the same issue. So it's not just Councillor Durham and some of these historic things that have been occurring, it's current. And the head of the CCG was there, and the head of the CCG is well aware of the concerns that we've got here. I also take exception to the suggestion that if we vote one way on a motion, we care, and if we vote another way on a motion, we don't care. Everybody in this chamber, I'm sure, cares about GP access. It's the biggest thing I have in my postbag at the moment, and I do take exception to the suggestion that if I'm suggesting some kind of amendment that I don't care. I do care, and it needs to be addressed. But rather than starting from scratch, let's keep the wheels moving, because they're already moving.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do, members, Councillor Fluke, your last one, and then I'm going to go to the vote for the original motion.
Thank you, Chairman. I think Councillor Boyce is looking at all the motions, and I'm sure he'll have something to say in a moment. But, Chairman, I recognise a lot of what's been said, particularly by Councillor Durham, because I remember these meetings. But I would say to members, don't give up, because I've had a lot of meetings lately with the CCG E1, which is the area that covers my ward and the NHS, and it won't be long before we make an announcement regarding a new surgery in Southminster. And Chairman, you know, there's been quite a lot of things said about doctors' surgeries, but I would say is I would pay tribute to Tillingham Surgery. They've done a brilliant job. I don't get many complaints from them. I see my friend nodding here. And Chairman, 8 months ago, I walked in there for a consultation, and 2 weeks ago, I had a triple hernia done on the National Health Service. Thank you very much, Chair.
All right, members, I'm going to move now. I'm going to move now to the vote. So first of all, we've got 2 amendments, and they're up on the screen. Members, there are 2 amendments, and they're up on the screen. The first amendment, which was proposed by Councillor Morris and seconded by Councillor Bassinger, is that MDC resolves to write an open letter to MP John Whittingdale and Priti Patel, asking them to raise the lack of GP awareness by possible parliamentary question, if necessary, in our district, and inquire about emergency funding for Malden District and any other areas with high patient to doctor ratios, to assist the residents and the emergency departments of our hospitals, which are also under strain in these medically deprived areas. That is the first amendment that was proposed by Councillor Morris.
That's the motion, Chairman.
The amendment follows that.
I amended the original motion.
Yes,
It was Priti Patel, that was.
yes, I have just read out the amended motion, which will.
The second one. Yeah, that was the amendment. Yeah, that's what we voted on first. Yeah.
Oh,
so the original order.
And then can we do the amendments on that? Ah, right.
If this fails, members, please, if this fails, then we will go for the amendment proposed by the leader and seconded by Councillor Nunn.
Well, Chairman, can I just qualify that, please? This is the motion being changed. It's being addressed. So what we would have to be agreeing with is this new motion, and then my amendment would be on that new motion.
Yes.
Yes.
But then you're going to vote. What you're saying is, if then this is granted, you're not going to say my amendment can then be voted on. You are. We'll come back to my amendment. Right. That's what you're saying. Okay. Just so I'm clear.
So we are agreeing the amendment first of all. We're not agreeing the motion. We're agreeing the amendment.
Okay.
So are members happy with the amendment in the centre there where the red writing is?
Yeah.
Are you happy with those amendments?
Yes.
Right, that's agreed.
Makes sense of the motion.
Okay, right. So now we're going to move on to the amendment proposed by the leader. And that has been seconded by Councillor Nunn. And that is that the proposed letter be updated to acknowledge the work the work done so far. Oh, I lost my place. On the current situation, and responses are made through the leader, MP liaison meeting and reporting back. That is, are you happy with that?
Yeah. What I meant is we could have a response to the letter, but equally the issues could be taken up within the liaison meeting. So we've got two goes at it.
Well, that says it.
And I would like to qualify within the updated letter, there's ways that can be weaved in about the points that Councillor Bassinger made, because that's all part and parcel of the access to which that they're asking for their sort of access regarding GPs, and that's part and parcel of it, face to faces, so that can be weaved in as well.
Right, thank you. So Councillor Nunn, are you happy with those amendments?
I am, Chairman.
Right, in that case I will go to the vote on that. Can we agree that by assent? Right, that is agreed then, thank you.
Chairman, now becomes a substantive motion that we now have to vote on.
Yeah. So are we agreed on this substantive motion, this now substantive motion? Thank you. Right, okay, we'll move on now to agenda item 11. Was it seconded, Tara?
I don't think it was seconded. It wasn't seconded.
I asked for a recorded vote and you said that we was going to debate
Right,
it
well,
first.
that,
Did I say it in retrospect?
no.
Well, it's agreed by assent now. We all agreed.
Yeah, we've agreed, okay.
For a vote at any time.
I'm going to move on now to agenda item 11, questions in accordance with procedure rule 6.3, of which notice has been given. I'm told that there are none. We now move to agenda item 12, the Council Tax Support Scheme 2022-23. The purpose of this report is to approve a significantly unchanged local council tax support scheme and associated policies for 22-23 with minor technical amendments as set out in section 2A to C. And there are 3 recommendations. I'm going to hand over to the leader.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Just to say this is a significantly unchanged scheme supporting the delivery of large cost-neutral scheme. And I'm just can't scroll up now. I'll try and do that. So there are recommendations. Okay, I've got it. If you want, do you want me to read them out, Chairman?
Yes, if you would, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
so there's recommendation little one. That if the following changes to the existing schemes are approved: A cost of living increase in line with the Department for Work and Pension schemes to be included in the local council tax support scheme for 2022 to 23 for pensioners only. That any legislative changes be introduced into the housing benefit scheme for 2022 to 23 are mirrored in the council's LCTS scheme to ensure consistency, and C, minor technical amendments to ensure that we are able to administer the scheme reflecting current local and national guidance. There's little 2, Chairman, that this decision has been made following members' careful reading of and regard to the Equality Impact Assessment at Appendix 1, and little 3, that the updated Exceptional Hardship Fund for Council Tax Support Framework, Appendix 2, be endorsed. Chairman, I don't know if an officer wants to add any comments.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Mays. Mr. Leslie, can you present the report, please?
Okay, thank you, Chairman. So the scheme is required to be approved each year. As it's been said, it's substantially unchanged from last year. There has been a decrease in the number of people receiving the scheme from 3,300 to about 3,500 people, so a reduction in the amount of people in receipt of that. Just point out that paragraph 3.4 of the report shows the hardship scheme is proposed to continue, with the framework there at Appendix 2 and full details of the scheme, of course, at Appendix 1.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Can we agree that by assent? Thank you very much. We move to agenda. Councillor Durham, sorry.
Chairman, regrettably, I have to leave. I'm an election agent and to be at the count in Wickham Bishop.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Members, agenda item 13, updated discretionary Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Dewitt. Thank you, Councillor Hell.
Actually, I will leave the chamber for this one because mine is a pecuniary interest.
Okay.
So that was
Helm Fluker. Voice. Right, thank you, members. Agenda item 13, updated discretionary non-domestic rate relief policy, pages 337 to 406. The purpose of this report is for members to approve the updated scheme, which updates and replaces our existing policy to reflect changes announced by central government to support businesses. The new relief will be fully funded by central government. Leader, do you wish to put the recommendation?
Yes, Chairman, I will. Quite simply, this is just to enable additional financial support for eligible businesses. So it's as the recommendation at 2, that the proposed discretionary non-domestic rate relief scheme at Appendix 1 be approved.
Do I have a seconder?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson. Mr. Holmes, could you present the report, please? Or is that too for Michelle?
If it's all right,
You're able to do that? Yes, okay, Mr. Leslie.
Just as it's in my name as a director. So again, another annual report that comes through, and again another policy which is substantially unchanged from last year. The key point probably to note is that this now includes the discretionary for the COVID grants as well, which have been rolled into the annual report. There are schemes that are currently in operation that were approved as part of the SNR committee. But for completeness, these have now been rolled into the discretionary scheme and will allow us to continue to pay those businesses who are eligible for reliefs as part of the COVID scheme.
Thank you. Any questions, members? Happy to agree this by assent. Thank you very much. Moving on now to agenda item. Oh yes, if we could have those members back, please.
Councillor Stam.
Could you just let the other members?
Members, if they'd like to come back in. Sorry?
Sue went up.
Oh, yes, she did.
Did she go that way? She went that way.
She did go that way.
Yeah, she went that way. She went that way, did she?
Oh, no, here she comes.
Oh, they've got Sue.
No, Mark's left now. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, members. Okay, can we move on, please? Agenda item 14, taxi and private hire policy and licensing conditions, page 407 to 456. The purpose of this report is in front of you. There are two recommendations. Leader, are you able to put those recommendations?
Well, yes, Chairman. They're at, from what I can see, Little 1 and Little 2 at 2, paragraph 2, that the amendments to the licensing commission appendices 2 and 3 be approved.
Yeah.
And that the taxi and private hire policy appendix 4 be approved.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mays, thank you. Who will be presenting this report? Mr. Holmes, is it?
Chairman, we have Ms Gibson on the line. She's happy to answer any member questions, but it's a fairly straightforward report. This matter was looked at by council on the 2nd of September 2021. It's been out to consultation, and this is the feedback from that consultation and the amendments. But as I said, we have the officer here to answer any member questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms Gibson. Are you able to present your report?
Yeah, Chairman, I can present the report if you wish.
Thank you.
Okay. Following statutory guidance issued by the Department for Transport, the Council agreed to draft policy and conditions in relation to taxi and private hire licensing. There was a 6 weeks consultation from mid-October to the end of November last year. There was limited response to the consultation, but there was very little to say apart from a member of the trade. However, as these have been recommendations being put in place to protect children and vulnerable adults, these changes are required. Some amendments are proposed to the licensing conditions due to constructive feedback from the trade. Members are asked to agree the amendments and the policy. It is proposed that these changes are implemented from the 1st of April this year.
Thank you very much indeed. Members, do you have any questions on this? No. Okay. Happy to agree by assent?
Agreed.
Thank you. Agenda item 15, committee meetings and future options, page 457 to 466. These are to consider the ongoing arrangements for committee meetings in light of changes to the government restrictions. Are you able to put these recommendations, Leader?
Yes, when I can find them, Chair.
Okay.
It's by scrolling down. I've gone into, I don't know where I am actually now. I lost them. Just a minute. There we go. Thank you, Chairman. Sorry about that. My computer had a weird moment, and my digit did too. So regarding the recommendations, there's actually 5 of them, Chairman. They're quite long, but one is Little 1. The members review and note the updated risk assessment set out at Appendix A for physical meetings. 2, that members extend the emergency decision for physical public meeting attendance subject to capacity members as outlined in Appendix A. And that 3, members review other mitigations listed and confirm which of those set out in 3.3 they would like to procedurally continue upon consideration of current guidance. Little 4, that members confirm continuation of YouTube live streaming of meetings past the removal of COVID restrictions in light of the information set out at section 3.8 of the report. And 5, Chairman, that for the non-regulatory matters to allow those members unable to physically attend to join remotely to ask questions, engage in debate, subject to Chairman approval, noting that they would not be able to vote, Chairman.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you very much. Mr. Dodson, are you able to present this report, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This is a fairly straightforward report. Obviously, the guidance for COVID guidance has been updated. It was updated at the end of January, which resulted in the emergency decision to change the access to the chamber for the public. That would need to be extended as the decision lasted up until today, when council's meeting and able to make a decision. The other key part of it is that subsequently there have been further changes to the regulations, with the removal of virtually all COVID regulations from today. The important thing I think in this paper is that members consider the measures previously agreed under 3.3, which they need to review in light of those changes to the COVID regulation, national COVID regulations and guidance. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions, members? Councillor Lagan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As Mr Dodson said, the government legal measures ended today. So I've looked down at what the current legislation guidance says, and I've got a bit of a problem with the public to watch via YouTube and us participating. The first part I've got no problem with. I think it makes perfect sense, and we get more engagement by having online presence. I do have a problem where it says the risk assessment has reviewed physical capacity numbers based on general crowd management and space. In my profession, I haven't seen any references to what those sites are, measurements actually are, and I don't know if with this says we recommend 6 in the council chamber and 25 in the Northern room. You could probably get 10 in the council chamber with the space that's there with the other chairs that we used to have. So I'm uncomfortable by limiting public participation actually in the chamber. And also on the risk assessment, I just scroll down and I'll tell you the page. Page 463, attendance by affected persons. You know mitigations that you could put in there to limit attendance by affected persons. So I question that they would actually have any measure at all. And the last one that I put in was, again, it was in the risk assessment. It says based on an area of 5 by 5 in the Northern room, it can accommodate 25 chairs. You can go to a football match pub, you can go to a restaurant, you can sit next to anybody. Go on a tube, you haven't got that. So I think those things I'm not prepared to support restricting the amount of people we can get in here. The more people we get in here, the better. So I think the report's good. I think there's let's give it down to people's personal responsibility, and if they want to wear a mask and do what they want to do, that's down to them. But I think we should definitely get more people in if we can, and allow people to have mitigations if they feel that it works for them. So that's my points on it, Chair. Thank you.
I'd like to second that.
Thank you. Could I just
Seconded.
noted? Thank you. Councillor Skeens.
Yes, I mean, I would agree with that. We need to have, I mean, this tech chamber is so badly designed for public space, for public presence anyway, but yes, certainly more than 6. We should be able to put that back in. And I guess the proposal would be, well, I'll go back to Councillor Lagan on this, but that we have as many as is physically possible in, within reason. Or that we return to what we had before, I guess, would be what you're saying, Councillor Lagan, through the chair.
Yeah. Could I just ask you, Councillor Lagan, could you be clear on your proposal, because we need to get that typed out. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the proposal should read, and you'll have to busk this a little bit, that members and officers are at liberty to take whatever measures they feel so fit to protect their own health and safety, and that the chamber should accommodate as many members of the public as possible to observe, participate in.
Okay, I'm sorry, we're trying to type this down while you're saying it.
It's voice recognition software, Chair. Hey, you know, oh blimey, yeah. Tara's a cracker; she can get in. So.
How far have you got, Tara?
Chairman, I think I've got most of that. Members and officers limited, able to take they feel fit to protect their own health and safety, and the chamber should accommodate as many members of the public as possible.
Yep.
Right. Is that okay with you, Councillor Lagan?
Yeah, I think maybe just to add a footnote, as what Councillor Skeens has said, as reasonably practicable and safely, yeah, because you can't have, we can't, with all due respect, you can't have 100 people in here because it's not safe, it's not feasible.
Okay, and working within guidance and regulations. Right. So that was proposed. Are you happy with that, Councillor Morris?
Seconded.
Members, are you happy to agree that?
Agreed.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Thompson.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm happy to agree that.
Ah.
I was sort of moving on. I was getting ready to move on from there, Chairman. So
Right.
yeah, happy to agree that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, so that is agreed. Right, where are we? So we need to go back to the 5 recommendations. Any other questions on those, members?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Sorry, I was a bit swift there. Thank you, Chairman. A couple of things. I very strongly think we should keep the YouTube live stream
Yes.
streaming. I think there's very little that's good that's come out of the whole COVID thing, but I think this is probably one, because of, everyone can't get in the chamber, everyone can't necessarily get here for evening meetings, don't drive, whatever. Must keep that. Certainly agree with the non-regulatory matters where it's, if it's in with statute, then members should be able to comment remotely, although we know they can't vote unless the law changes. And the other thing is, I think that the face masks should continue to be available to members of staff and probably members as well who feel they need to wear one, the FFP3 standard. That's my own view. I don't know what other people will think, but
Okay,
an awful lot of people now won't want to wear one, but I think, since we're more or less obliged to be here, I think they should be available for those who do.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. So I think you're agreeing with the recommendations such as we've had, but additionally that we have the masks still available.
If other members agree.
Do other members? Right. Okay. I've got a couple of questions. Councillor Stamp, I know, was first. Sorry, I'll come to you.
Thank you. Totally agree. But can we actually look at upgrading the sound quality? I think every meeting we attend, some of us get messages, I can't hear. It's usually Councillor Fluker, which is a surprise that we usually can't hear him. And we all know, if he'd have been here, he'd chuckle anyway. But can we actually look at that? I don't know as a council if we've got that, because the sound quality is very poor in this chamber. I mean, sometimes I'm struggling to hear Councillor Channer. And I think people on YouTube, like I said, I'm often getting messaged and said, or moaned at actually the day after, can't blooming hear the council meeting. There's no point in even watching it on YouTube. The quality's so poor. So I think if we're still encouraging members of the public to do that, I think we need to up our game and make sure they can hear us.
Right. Okay. I'm sure Mr. Holmes will note that. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. If we are going to buy masks, can we buy the right sort this time? Because I'm pretty sure we bought the wrong sort last time with, I don't know, valves going out the wrong way or something. Thank you.
Yes, I'm sure we will. Yes, Councillor Thompson.
Chairman, sorry, leader. Sorry, Chairman. I don't know who to apologise to. I was only going to say, yes, the ones with the valves protect the wearer. But unfortunately, if the wearer has COVID, they're not going to protect anybody else. That's just quite a clarification. And I should have said, but didn't. Yeah, I would prefer we use the ones that protect everybody and don't have the valves. But obviously, if we've got stock, we should use them. I'd hate to see them thrown away. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm against us buying the masks, not because I'm against masks. If you want to wear one, you wear one.
Yeah.
It's personal choice. It's just that I don't know a single person in this room that can't afford to buy their own mask. And it's not something the council should have to fork out on.
Right. Okay. I think we're happy to agree those. Yes, Councillor Swain, and then Councillor Lagan.
What would we be passing or agreeing to under little 3? Because it says we should confirm which of those in 3.3 we wish to continue with.
Can you help us, Mr. Dodson?
You members can either review it, but I thought some of what Councillor Lagan said covered, in general, the answer to it.
Yeah.
So unless there's anything that members would specifically like to do over and above, I think that probably covers it.
Okay, Councillor Lagan.
Yeah, sorry, I absolutely agree with Councillor Morris on the masks. You buy them yourselves. The public shouldn't pay for masks if it's a choice matter.
Right. Members, what is your view on, anybody have any opposing view? Councillor Stevens?
Thank you. I thought we just said that we were getting masks for the staff who have no option as to whether they come here or not. And it's so cheap. It just isn't an issue. Can we not debate that? Thank you.
Councillor Skeens.
Yeah, sorry, I hope I haven't misunderstood this. I thought it was availability of masks for everybody. I think staff should be provided with masks because they have no choice. I think members can afford to buy their own masks, and indeed they do. But then maybe there should be some masks available for members of the public. So it's kind of much of the muchness. We are going to need a store of masks. So
Right. Okay. Are members happy to agree that? Anybody know? Councillor Lagan.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Look, I don't want to crack on about it for too long. I think the officers themselves have a duty of care to their employees, and it's down to them to make a determined decision whether they want to offer their staff masks. They can't enforce it, but they can recommend it. I think for members of the public, it's an optional thing for those, is what I said. They can come in and do it. It's an optional thing for us as well. I don't think what do we do? Buy hand sanitizer? Do we buy petrol? Do you give me a cup of tea? I think it's very simple and very, very quick just to say, look, it's as the government, even that person, he says it's personal responsibility. So take that personal responsibility. If people feel comfortable in doing it, they can feel comfortable in doing it. You're not stopping anybody, but we've got to draw the line somewhere. And they're not as cheap as you think, So I think we should just say, at the end of the day, if you want to come along, but protect yourself in the way that you feel you need to. Thank you.
Councillor Skeens.
just very quickly, I have to say I think Councillor Lagan is right about that.
Okay. Councillor Swain.
Are we dispensing with the agreed regulation on one-way system for movement around the building, and dispensing with anything connected with lateral flow tests?
Well, I think we're leaving that to the directors, are we not? Are we dispensing with the one-way systems and?
That was covered by, I understand, by what Councillor Lagan said, and everybody agreed to in principle.
So we should move on, Chair.
Right. Happy to move on, members. Right. Those are all agreed. We move on to right. Agenda item 16. Update on Social Enterprise Accelerator Fund and member representation, pages 467 to 470. This is the purpose of this report is to update members on the additional restriction grant funded Social Enterprise Accelerator Fund and to consider the appointment of member representation to an internal awarding panel. 2 recommendations. Are you able to put those, Leader?
Yes, Chairman, I will. Recommendation number 1 is purely that the creation of an internal award panel for the Social Enterprise Accelerator Fund be approved. And little 2, that the member nominations set out in section 3.11 be ratified and 1 additional member appointment be approved for the remainder of the municipal year. And while I'm here speaking, Chairman, the 3 names, there is actually 3 names already there, and it's a matter of posts as well. And that is Councillor Richard Siddle, to be ratified because he's the chairman of Strategy and Resources. Councillor Carly Mays, because she sits on the London Business Forum, and myself as leader. And then there's 1 more name to be done, and I would like to propose from the chair that be Councillor Stamp, because Councillor Stamp is the representative in the Burnham area regarding business, and therefore we've got the balance across the district in terms of north and south, if you like, and I want a bit of word, Malden and Burnham. And that would be my proposal, Chairman. We ratify those 3, and then I nominate Councillor Stamp be the 4th member, Chairman, on that panel.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Mays. Thank you. I think we have Leander Cable. Yes, we do. Hello there. Could you present the report, please?
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, members. On the 6th of January, Strategy and Resources Committee approved the Gibraltar approach to making additional restrictions for grant funding, which is part of the Council's COVID-19 Economic Recovery and Transformation Programme. Under this programme, the Social Enterprise Accelerator Fund will support community-focused organisations to enhance economic, social and cultural life in the Malden District. These activities will help develop a resilient social economy for residents and businesses. To ensure fair and clear decision-making, an internal audit panel is proposed who will review and approve and decline applications.
It's important to note that the Council's additional restrictions grant allocation from central government must be defrayed by 31st of March 2022. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any questions, members? Right, the recommendations are that those four members are agreed as to be appointed to that panel. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Right, we now move on to agenda item 17.
Sorry, Chairman, just on the previous item, members presumably are also agreeing the creation of that panel. As well as
The creation. Yes, that is agreed. Right, okay, so we're almost.
Wendy.
Yes, sorry, Councillor Stamp.
Chairman, can I speak under the next agenda item before you say you haven't got anything? Because I think something's arisen tonight. I'd like to bring it up. I think it's important.
I have got something that I'm going to.
Can I say something as well, please, Chairman?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Can do. Okay, this is under urgent business. I want to address the comment which was made by Councillor Morris earlier in relation to Mr. Holmes, and state that Mr. Holmes has sat through this meeting wearing a mask, and that your comment, Councillor Morris, is not to be recorded in the minutes. Councillor Stamp.
Chairman, you must have read my mind. I actually wanted to go a little bit further, and I think the officers and directors cannot respond to members' accusations. I cannot believe for one moment that the director, who's been here for many years, would show so much disrespect, and I think Councillor Morris should withdraw that comment and apologise publicly for saying that the director laughed about a situation that he is responsible for dealing with day in, day out. And I know for a fact that when we had all the trouble, he was messaging me about things in my ward at all hours of the day, and I think it's totally unacceptable that that sort of comment should be allowed. So I think it should be withdrawn.
Councillor Morris, are you prepared to withdraw that remark?
I'd like to speak before I answer that question. I am sitting within spitting distance of Richard Holmes, and I saw him chuckle with my own eyes. Now, unlike yourself, Chairman, who refused to admit that you heard cheering at death threats at a previous meeting,
right, okay,
I have not got channeritis.
Are you prepared to withdraw?
Not on your Nelly. He laughed when I was speaking about a homeless person being given a tent
toward the code of conduct.
That's fine.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not going to put words in the mouth or behind the mask of Mr. Holmes, but I think anything in the way of anybody chuckling, and I did, which would be related to the fact that someone who announces and chooses not to pay council tax would complain that we don't have the resources to help people more than we do.
I am paying council tax, but I am not prepared to pay for employees to be gagged about criminal activities, non-disclosure agreement, legal bribes.
I would like to place on record my support for Mr. Holmes as well.
Are you stating it's rubbish that we've given non-disclosure agreements? Are you stating it's rubbish that...
You're talking rubbish about.
Oh, so what do you know about them? Because apparently they're non-disclosure agreements.
Councillor Morris, I'm asking you to be silent.
And I'm responding to the deputy leader when she's directing questions.
I'm on my feet.
Oh, you might be. What, you're stretching your legs?
I'd like to...
Is that supposed to scare me?
I would like...
Riding in your chair?
I would like the minutes to note that once again, Councillor Morris has failed to obey a request by the chairman.
An unreasonable request.
It is a direction by the chairman.
You ignore loads of other stuff, Mark. Why don't you ignore this?
Channer.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd also like it recorded in the minutes in that statement channeritis was referred to yet again. I would like to refer to my speech earlier tonight about enough is enough. And I'd also like to draw attention to my speech when I spoke about equality, diversity and inclusion, which covers people with disabilities that might not be seen. Can that be recorded, Chairman? Thank you.
Yes, I'm happy for that.
Would you like an explanation of channeritis?
At the Right.
Sees nothing,
I'm now
hears
going to
nothing,
move
knows
to
nothing.
Agenda item 18 was exclusion of the press and public. This is to resolve that under section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act, and this satisfies the public interest test. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mays, thank you. I would like to remind members that they should, if they... Right, okay, can we make sure that the feed is off? I'd have to ask members